Today's topic is the disposition of each planet to the particular ascendant. The reason this is important is because each planet has a different kind of effect on our ascendants, meaning that, for example, Saturn can be an excellent planet for a Capricorn ascendant. Saturn might not be an excellent planet for a Leo or Cancer ascendant. And what we learn to see is that each planet, the innate quality of every planet, is going to be different depending on the kind of person that we are, indicated by our ascendant. And that makes a lot of sense because there are many different kinds of people in the world, and each of them have their own path to follow. Some of those paths are meant to be inspiring and devotional and righteous and motivated, such as ascendants, Aries or Cancer ascendants. Other ascendant types, such as Gemini, Virgo, even Libra, they're meant to really make peace with the world as it is. So when it comes to, say, spiritual growth or spiritual progress, the idea of following a guru who inspires you with fantastic stories or makes you strive to master your will, well, for a, let's just say Libra or Virgo ruled ascendant, what might be more accurate for them is to learn to make peace with God as it is all around them, meaning that they learn to see that God is the good, the bad, the beautiful, the ugly, the good experiences, and everything really. So, it's considered more of a Vishnu-related path. Also, a lot of people interested in Ramana Maharshi resonate quite a bit with that kind of a path. The work of Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda, and the Kriya Yoga path, that could apply more accurately to, again, possibly a Scorpio ascendant, a Cancer ascendant, a Pisces ascendant. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot participate in these paths if your ascendant doesn't naturally line up for it. But what it does indicate is that it'll allow you to see how to be more realistic about your experiences on this path and what you're meant to develop. But this is more of a, higher level idea for getting into spirituality here. But really what we want to do is learn to see that each ascendant relates differently to different planets. And so to say Saturn is bad, or Mars is bad, or Venus is good, or Jupiter is good, well, as malefics and benefics, sure, we can kind of get that sense. The benefics are going to give us more things easier with more grace. The malefics are going to make us work harder, but again, we can still be successful. And this was brought to my attention again when I was doing a session with a woman the other day who had a beautiful chart. And she said so herself. She wasn't even sure why she was coming to an astrologer. And her chart was so beautiful that things just typically worked out for her. And one of the weaknesses that she had, at least from my perception, was that probably when things did not go well, that would be when she would fail. And you would think that that would be true for a lot of people, so that seems obvious. But, if someone has a lot of malefics on angles or has a lot of malefics influence in their chart, this is a person who can be inspired through hardship and difficulty. And this is the person that you want in a situation where you have to deal with tough, difficult things. So we need these people. Because when they come up against opposition, they're used to it, and they're going to find a way to deal with it and move beyond it. Whereas if we have a person with a lot of benefic planets or a chart that looks too easy, well, what happens? The moment that they come into a crisis, their grace runs out, they fumble and they can't make anything of themselves. So as long as their luck is there, they're fine. So in this regard, malefics are very helpful because they're not relying on luck. They're relying on willpower and force and the ability to overcome obstacles. And it's unrealistic in this world to think that if you want to accomplish something, that it's all going to work out by grace. It's possible, but not likely, at least in regards to human affairs. Now, of course, life itself will work out by grace, so we don't need to worry about that. Life will come to its natural conclusion one way or the other, and we'll ascend off into the light, hopefully, depending on our state of consciousness in between here and there. But when it comes to worldly things, accomplishing things, using your willpower as a demonstration of divinity, which is why we have it, the power of free will and choice is also an aspect of divinity. Well, again, you probably want to be on the same side of someone who has a powerful Mars or Saturn in a difficult situation than you would want to have someone, Jupiter or Venus. Because what happens, let's pretend you've got a lawyer who's got a Jupiter or Venus. Well, as a friend of mine always says, you know, you don't want a holistic, pleasant lawyer. Maybe in a few yugas or a few ages from now, when we can all get along and see how it's beneficial to work together, you want someone who's a shark, because you're going to be going up against someone who's a shark, typically. So you don't want your lawyer to have this beautiful Venus alone. Now, that can be good to win over people and to help people feel like they're getting their fair share and help people to get their fair share. But you also want to have that Mars or Saturn strong in there so that when the going gets tough, they can turn off that Venus and really cut to the chase. So always remember that. It's dependent on what's the situation and who are you dealing with. It's different for everybody. So anyway, if we go to page 104 of the Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, there is guidelines for determining the disposition of planets for each ascendant. And this is going to help us in a few talks from now when we get into yoga karakas and what blocks yoga karakas, because this is a point that a lot of people miss. They say, oh, well, I have the ruler of the 9th and the 10th together, so therefore I have a yoga karaka happening. But what they forget to take into consideration is maybe the 11th lord is with it, or maybe the 3rd lord is aspecting it. And those planets block yoga karakas. So we need to categorize it. Those planets that rule the 3rd, the 8th, and the 11th houses, 3rd, 6th, 8th, and 11th houses, particularly 3rd, 6th, and 11th, will have a strong potential to block yogas. And if they're stronger than the yoga producers, well, the blocks in the life are going to be stronger. So this is leading us to that kind of understanding, which we'll get to in about 2 talks from now. So first of all, with any ascendant, typically the ruler of the 1st house is auspicious and gives good results. So go into a dasha of that planet, sub-period of that planet, have a good transit of that planet, typically can give good results, even if it's a natural malefic. Doesn't matter if it's a natural malefic. So Saturn is great for Saturn-ruled ascendants. Mars is great for Mars-ruled ascendants. This can be curtailed in regards to certain circumstances. Now, the ruler of the 2nd is considered to be neutral. The ruler of the 2nd, it is a marika, which means that it can act as a killer in certain situations with health and longevity. But ideally, that's more of a secondary factor that we tie in to see if there's anything else pointing in that direction. And the 2nd lord will, I won't say act like, but will resonate with whoever he's with. So if he's with a karaka blocker or a yoga karaka, well then it'll act like that particular planet. So it'll either support it or not. So the ruler of the 3rd is generally considered to be inauspicious. It's the 8th from the 8th house, and that's because it represents egotistical or impulsive energy that can be disruptive. It can be good for brothers and sisters, but anything associated with this house lord, well, it tends to get disrupted. This is the place where you have to develop your courage, or where your egotistical, impulsive energy comes out, where you're going to force the issue, which may or may not be helpful. The ruler of the 4th is said to be strong. It's said that if the ruler of the 4th is a malefic, the ruler of any angle being a malefic does better, versus when the ruler of an angle is a benefic. The ruler of an angle being a benefic has a tendency to lose its positive qualities, so it doesn't work as well. The ruler of the 5th, excellent house lord. The 5th is a trinal house, so the ruler of the 5th can help to produce yoga, power within the chart, grace within the charts. Wherever it's placed, it'll bring positive results to that house, depending on many things that we've gone over in this course, including dignity and logitati of Vashtas, but as a general rule, it's helpful. The ruler of the 6th, it's a house of injury, disease, and difficulty, so obviously it can give negative results. The ruler of the 7th, an angular house, same as the 4th. If a malefic rules the 7th, works better, typically. It just helps it work in a more positive fashion. If the ruler is a benefic, it loses some of its benefic capacity. The ruler of the 8th, this brings in crisis, obstacles, opposition, and negativity, so it's generally considered to be inauspicious. And this is in relation to having it placed in various houses. So having the 8th lord in the 10th house, well, that can be good for crisis-oriented careers, but if it's not in good dignity, well, then it has the potential to make you have a lot of crisis within your career, or a lot of uncertainty, or sudden breaks and changes. So we can go back and review past talks to get a sense of this on this channel. The ruler of the 9th is a Kona, Trikona, trinal house, which again makes it very fortunate, gives positive results. And remember, this is in relationship to the particular ascendant. The ruler of the 10th, again, same rules as all the other angular houses. Malefics ruling the 10th do better. Benefics ruling the 10th, not so much. And what's the reason behind this? We have to consider this. Well, the reason behind this is because the angles are places of power. Their activity, they can represent our willfulness and our force. Not willfulness like the 3rd house, egotistical, but our ability to use our power, our capacity to make change and do things and take action. And benefics, they're more graceful houses. That's why they do much better with owning trinal houses. But if you have a malefic owning an angle, well, that means that malefic energy can be used in an active, hopefully useful way. So that's the way we look at it. Benefics do best owning trines. Malefics actually do best owning angles. These are general rules here. Now, the ruler of the 11th, while that can be good for income and gains and fortune, it's also considered to be one of the most disruptive, impulsive, or anarchy-like houses, because it represents our real personal desires, being someone, being seen, being recognized. And so of all the yoga breakers, the 11th house is actually stronger. And again, we'll get to this in a future video. But the 11th is the 6th from the 6th house. So that's why we have some of these 6th house influences here. So remember that. The 11th lord, typically not considered good for the particular ascendant. Like for Virgo ascendant, moon's not really considered that great of a planet. And we'll talk about what that means by not being that great of a planet, because we do need the moon no matter what ascendant we are. And the ruler of the 12th, it does cause expenses and losses, but it's actually like the second, more neutral in its character. And it'll typically follow the impact of the other house that it rules, because most planets are going to rule 2 houses. So if we have the 12th house lord, we need to see what other house does the planet who rules the 12th rule. Now, the other thing that we need to consider is that Moola Trikona is most important. When we want to see which kind of influence from a planet is going to predominate, then we need to look at, like for example, again, Virgo. Well, the Moola Trikona for Virgo is Aquarius. And Aquarius is the 6th house from Virgo. So what this tells me is that even though Saturn rules the 5th for a Virgo ascendant, Capricorn, he also rules Aquarius, which is the 6th, and that's where the Moola Trikona sign is. So oftentimes the nature of the planet will move towards the house that has the Moola Trikona sign. So for Virgo, Saturn rules the 5th and the 6th house. So is Saturn a good or a bad planet for Virgo ascendant? Well, he's considered to be neutral according to Brihat Parashar Hora Shastra, but he's supposed to give more of the results of, say, the 6th house influence, because the Moola Trikona falls within the 6th house. So think about that. And that means that when you're looking at a dasha, if you're trying to figure out, is this going to be more of a 5th house planetary time period or 6th house planetary time period, it'll probably lean a little more towards the 6th, because the Moola Trikona is in the 6th, again, using Virgo as the example. Now, this is, you need to remember all this, because this is going to set us up for understanding how Yoga Karakas work, and also what planets can break the Raja Yogas, right? Raja Yogas. Hopefully I've been using that term correctly. I might have misused what I was meaning to say. So the Yogacaras, they make Raj yogas, royal yogas. And the Raja yogas are broken by rulers of the 3rd, 6th, and 11th primarily getting involved either with those planets, aspecting those planets. So we have to learn to determine which is stronger. The Yogacaras making the Raja yoga, or the yoga breakers, the rulers of the 3rd, 6th, or 11th. And that's why, again, you see so many charts where, wow, there should be a Yogacaraka here, there should be a Raja yoga forming because of these planets. But it never happens, because we see that there's a planet getting in the way. The 3rd Lord, the 6th Lord, the 11th Lord. 3rd Lord are egotistical, impulsive, doing what we want to do. 6th house, debts that we haven't paid off yet, obstacles or debts or enemies. 11th house, trying to be seen or be someone. We have to remember with the Raj yogas, this shows how we can be a great person in the world. And if we're obsessed with being someone and being seen rather than actually doing a good job, well, that's the 11th house getting in the way. So always keep that in mind. Okay, now, within the art and science of Vedic astrology, there's a great table on pages 107 and 108. So 107 and 108, right there, hard to see. But on these tables, it pretty much describes or shows you what are the friends for each ascendant, and what are the enemies and what are the neutrals for each ascendant. So it breaks it down for you. So if you have a copy of the Art and Science of Vedic Astrology, you can see how that works out. I do believe I did another talk earlier in this channel before I got involved in this basic introductory class where I have this chart available for you. Let's see if we can see it at all if I hold it up for you. Okay, so anyway, hard to see, but this is what we're looking at here. So as you can see with this, it's got the friendly planets by sign and the enemy planets by sign. But this is in Brihat Parashar, Horashastra, and many astrology books tell you about these things. So you can get a sense of when a planet's going to be a good or a bad planet. Now, what does that mean? Let's finish up with that. What does that mean, a good or a bad planet? Well, if a planet's considered to be, quote, an evil planet, like again using the idea of Virgo, well, according to Parashara, Jupiter is actually considered to be an evil planet for Virgo ascendant, which is strange because Jupiter is the great benefic. Well, Jupiter may be the great benefic, but again, as we can see, each ascendant has a different kind of purpose and meaning and direction. And for a Virgo ascendant is meant to, again, see the world as it is, to be at peace with life as it comes. Again, these are very Ramana Maharshi, Vasista's yoga type of paths. The work of Byron Katie reflects what's a good path for a Virgo type ascendant. And you see so many different kinds of people getting involved in kind of like the wrong paths, meaning that they'll get into a devotional path and they'll be really striving to know God in this cosmic, fantastic way. And they're Virgo or they're a Gemini ascendant, and that's not what they're really meant to do typically. What they're typically meant to do is to be at peace with what is. And Jupiter is the planet of grandiose teachings. And the same thing with Mars. Mars is a planet of what you should and shouldn't do. You know, those striving for righteousness, striving for perfection. And what do we see but for a Virgo ascendant? Mars rules the 3rd and the 8th house, both houses which are not supportive of a Virgo ascendant, which means that doing what you should do gets in the way of the person's path. And you get caught up in that, you never get anywhere. You just get a mind trip going on. With that same kind of idea, if a Virgo can put down all these rules and how things should be and appreciate and accept what is and make the best of it, they'll be happier. For a Cancer-ruled ascendant, well, now Jupiter rules the 9th house and Mars rules the 10th house. That's great for someone who gets involved in a religion or spirituality where there's a lot of rules and high ideals and morals to follow. It's perfect for them. So again, we start to see how this works out. And in time, you'll start to get a sense of this. And if you pay attention to people's charts and see just where they're getting frustrated, where are they having problems, usually it'll have to do with the innate quality of the planet that rules the 3rd, the 6th, or the 11th houses. And the things where they'll thrive, if they understand the innate quality of the planets that rule the 1st, the 5th, and the 9th, just as an example, those are the easiest ones to go with because they're trinal houses, those will be the things they need to pay attention to, where they'll find more peace of mind, more dharma, more grace within their path and within their life. So it's an interesting thing, and it's something that you really need to contemplate and consider. All right, well, before we finish up today, moving on to the yogas in general during the next video, we've already got classes scheduled, luckily, for this coming spring and late spring. So 2 classes I already posted on my website was the Prajna class, asking if people wanted to do that, and also a Dashas class, timing prediction class, using houses, using the Dashas to see in detail when is something most likely to happen. So anyway, what are the dates? Let me pull this up. So the Prajna class, or the horary question-answer class, that's going to be the point of this class. It's going to be to answer questions. So when someone asks you a question, like what would be the result of taking this job, which is something I get asked a lot. What would be the result of leaving this relationship? What would be the result of going on this trip? Well, the moment someone asks you that question, you can make a birth chart for it, and you can read the chart to see, is this a good idea, is this a bad idea, and if so, why or why not? So it's a beautiful thing. So this will be an introductory Prajna or horary class, and it's good that if you've gone through all of these classes up to this point on the YouTube channel, because you'll need to know what the planets mean, what the houses mean, how these things work to get the most of this. So it's introductory, and that you'll be able to answer questions. Now Prajna is beautiful in that it just doesn't answer questions, it also can do timing as well. We're not going into timing in this one because we need to get the basics, and maybe, I don't know, 9 months from now or a year from now, we can look at an advanced Prajna class. So that will begin, I believe it's April 20th. I don't have it yet on my website, but the first class will be April 20th, beginning at 10 a.m. So 10 a.m. on April 20th, and it will be a 4-week class. So 10 a.m. Eastern Time, so my time, Eastern Time, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., 12 noon. We'll do 2 weeks. We'll skip a week. The reason we skip a week is because I lead a meditation group the first Sunday of every month. And then we'll do the final 2 after that. So it'll be 5 weeks overall, but we'll skip a week in the middle. And each class will be 2 hours. We'll look at the principles of Prajna to be able to answer questions, and we'll also go through charts, so you get good examples there. Now, the other class that we're going to be doing this year will begin in June. So let's find that date. Okay, so June 1st. And this will be a 5-week class, specifically looking at dashas, how to figure out what's going to go on in a particular area of life by dasha, and what to expect dasha. Looking at Brihat Parashara, we're going to pull in the Lajatati Avashtas. So this is a class that you really will need to understand these basics that we've gone over so far in this course, but I also encourage you to have taken the Lajatati Avashtas class, available on the site, AstralVedicAstrology.com, the Navamsha and Dasamsha class, and also the Myth and Magic of Vedic Astrology class. These 3 classes are most important. If you can take the step-by-step class, that'll be even better. And the reason this is the case is because I don't want to spend all my time going over these basics that it would be best if you knew by now anyway. So what I'm going to do for that, to make that easier for you, if you haven't already taken those classes or if you don't feel confident in those particular areas, probably up through June, probably up through mid-May, I'm going to make the classes half price on my website. And that's partially because I want you to take them so that we can just start from that point forward, rather than having to describe nitpicking particular techniques, because I want to focus simply on dashas, using these techniques effectively, focusing on houses to see what's going to happen, the potentials, the trends. So we want to make sure everyone's up to date on this. And of course, you might have already been trained in this anyway, so it's no big deal. If you are, great. But keep in mind, these are subjects that, in order to understand how to do dashas well, we have to have all these basics. Otherwise, we're just going to be guessing. Understanding transits are also helpful, but we'll be including that in the class. So anyway, keep that in mind. Typically in the past, these are webinars or teleconferencing classes, and I've been able to host about 25 students on this. So first come, first serve, whoever contacts me first. I'll send out the invoice for you and reserve your space. At this time, I believe that the price in the class will be between $40 to $60. I need to set that, so I'll do that in the next couple of days. And the Dasha class will be $108. And again, that's a 5-week class. All right, so be well, keep studying, keep reading, keep looking at charts, and we'll be in touch soon.